Hello, I'm Wade, and this is Shaman to Shaman. Today, I welcome Ann Adam, a shamanic practitioner from Austin, Texas. Shaman to Shaman is presented by Shamans Directory, an online resource featuring earth-based medicine people from around the world. Shamans Directory can be accessed at shamansdirectory.com, YouTube, and social media at Shamans Directory, where you can find profiles of members, interviews, programs, and ceremonies. Check back often as the dynamics of energy medicine are constantly in motion. Our goal is to introduce you personally to the wide variety of Shamans Directory members and their offerings. Getting to know them and be inspired to reach out and seek shamanic solutions to personal, community, and global issues. And now I'm delighted to introduce to you Ann Adam. Welcome, Ann. How are you?
I am quite well. Thank you for inviting me, Robert. This is really a great opportunity to give some information on. One of the things that I love about the Shamanic Directory is that there are so many um, ways to practice or to engage in shamanism, and this is one of them.
Well, and that's the whole purpose of the Shaman to Shaman series, Anne, is to get to know different members from the directory itself and find out about your history, your practice, what you're offering now, and what you're really about in the whole sphere of shamanic energy practice. Perhaps a good way to start is with your upbringing. And I know that you had a lot of influence from indigenous heritage and teachings, and I wonder if we could begin there.
Yes, thank you. So I grew up, well, first of all, my ancestors are of different tribes. My maternal line, my mother's maternal line was the Gree indigenous peoples from the north. And then on my dad's side, his mother was of the Lapana Apache in the Texas Hill Country, and his dad was of the indigenous people in Guanajuato, Mexico. So they each practiced their medicines, differently. And I grew up with that. To me, that was just part of life. I never went to a doctor. It was so then as a teenager, as with all teenagers, then it just kind of started seeming a bit odd to me. That's an odd way to live. And I didn't want anything to do with let's say shamanism or ways of energy healing. And but then in my mid 20s, I had some spontaneous experiences with healing and spirits. I wasn't looking to connect in any way, but I had some trauma, some PTSD. And I started then looking, really setting that intention to bring about healing for myself. And then that's when everything just started happening spontaneously. And, at the time being more left brain, every time something happened, I wanted to learn more about it. So either this book would fall in my lap or I would see something, an interesting talk or a workshop. And so then that's how I began then integrating the my ancestors' ways of healing. And of course, I'm 69 now, and I started when I was 25. So there's this long journey there. And but I did also study with studied core shamanism with the Foundation for Shamanic Studies. I went to Peru and spent some time with some shamans there. And also with Melodoma Some, African Shamanism, which goes deep into the ancestors and really bringing that, those gifts from the ancestors. And also some of Carlos Castaneda's work, the magical passes. So I just explored all these, and at the same time, was having connections with my great grandmother, who was of the Cree tribe and bringing in, that information. And also I'm also a licensed chemical dependency counselor. So I also spend time in my own healing in, traditional therapy, I guess. And so bringing in that aspect and how, depression, looking at depression, PTSD, how they affect us, but how we can also transform that into the healed self. So, and of course, there's all the basics of Reiki and also Kundalini yoga teacher, and yoga nidra, which is really great for PTSD as well. Hypnotherapists, and just, the list goes on. So bringing all that, but, as I mentioned, first of all, it was about applying it to self. I grew up in Houston. I was born in Houston and grew up there. My parents arrived in Houston as children. Um, and so that is a large community. And, I began then, people would, I was having some, let's say, gatherings and workshops, and then people started then by word of mouth coming and being able to see how shamanic healing, transformational healing is, you know, is such an powerful way to heal, along with traditional aspects of healing. And yeah, then I recently moved to Austin area to be near my grandchildren, but I still practice in Houston as well.
That's quite a background, Anne, and I would like to come back, if I might, to your emphasis on ancestors and your great grandmother in particular. If you were to characterize her, or the medicine or the knowledge that she offered you, or the experiences, how would you speak about her?
Okay, so and just to clarify, I've never met my great grandmother Isabel. And she died in 1914. But when I was born, well, I say when I was born, but as a young child, I always felt this spirit with me. At the time, I thought, well, it was a guardian angel, and she was. Um, and she's the one that um, really directed me in this path. And in connecting with her and getting a sense of her energy while she was here, she was a very maternal woman, um, where she took care of a lot of children, like just the neighborhood children or around that needed healing or guidance. She and her husband, they at one time lived with their tribe, but then they came away and they had a farm. And she had a boarding house as well. But this is what she brought to her family and to her community. She was a very hardworking woman, and a big-hearted woman. So also bringing her magic, or what we call magic, but it's actually there for everyone to experience. Her magic being, connecting with her indigenous ancestors and having them guide her, and to whatever was needed at the time in terms of community healing, and healing with children. And her children were a big part of her, her energy in terms of healing. So, serious kind of person. And as I describe her, I realize that I'm describing parts of myself as well.
That's not surprising to me, Anne. let me ask you this: do you think everyone has ancestral influences from their own bloodlines, or is that the kind of work that you do to connect people with their own ancestry?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll go more into later, but in the program that I teach on shamanic transformational healing, the ancestors is a big part of that. In terms of, very often, especially if there's been trauma in our lives, in our family, we don't realize, that the gifts that some of our ancestors have. So we have, those ancestors that, you know maybe didn't weren't able to express in a healing or positive way. We all have those ancestors who maybe had um, some challenges with alcoholism or depression, etc. And then we have those ancestors who, regardless of the culture, have those those gifts of healing or bringing healing to the family, bringing their wisdom. And so we have those. So in the program that I have developed, we then have ceremony for those ancestors that still need transformational healing, going to, into a higher vibration. So in sending those to that higher vibration, so then they then can come back and be, our guides in a sense, and then calling in those high vibration ancestors who were healers in many different ways, in different traditions. In addition to that, there is that Native American collective consciousness that comes in, and a person may not be have ancestors that were Native American or indigenous, people, but I think we were all indigenous at some point. But bringing in that collective consciousness then to be a part of that person's life as well.
And when you described your great grandmother, you were reflecting on how she has taught you, or how you are like her in certain ways. How would you describe yourself in that regard?
Um, you know, some people call me, have describe me as being serious in the sense that my life is focused ever since then at 25, when I went into my journey of transformation and connecting with the ancestors and that healing energy. Then that has been my passion, that has been my focus. So let's say, when I was working full time, my vacation time was, traveling to many parts of the world and learning about the indigenous ways and indigenous healing. All of my time that was not spent, with my children, or I I spend my time in having workshops, doing individual healings and teachings. And I mean, that has been my whole life. Not to say that I don't enjoy myself, because that is to me enjoyment, that is my passion. And I love doing that. And it's always this, wow, we don't realize how, what we call magic is our everyday, it is an everyday experience. And all we need to do is know that and learn ways to tap into that. And different people, learn in different ways. Some are, more visual, which I am. Some are kinesthetic. Some, are auditory or olfactory, using those olfactory senses are stronger. So just knowing that we do have those gifts in our DNA.
It's interesting, and I was speaking to a Caro, a native of the Andes elder the other day, and she said, um, "I always travel with a purpose. I never really go on vacation. I'm going to visit. I'm going to perform ceremony. I'm going to visit someone who will teach me or who I want to share something with." Would you describe yourself similarly then?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. That's a great way to put that. Yes.
Um, I know that you have programs that are very dynamic and comprehensive. If someone wanted to visit with you and individually, what kind of person do you attract or do you feel most resonant with?
That's an interesting question because that is true in that, certain people are attracted to my work. And usually there are individuals who are starting their journey in transformational healing with PTSD, depression that has been, generational, and anxiety, people with bipolar, diagnoses or psychoses, and so there is that. It's a varied line to where starting with sometimes it's situational depression. Somebody got a divorce or their loved one passed away, so there is that going on too, where it's been generational. There is the psychosis and that bipolar um, um, experiences there. So, generally, those are people who find me, and we do individual work on that, individual healing, shamanic healing. But then I also look at, that person's history. And if it is long term and it does involve bipolar or psychosis, make sure that they are getting the medical attention as well.
So, Anne, you're talking about people being attracted to you who have the impact of trauma in their lives.
Yes. PTSD is, yes, a major one. The trauma very often started in childhood. And so then in carrying that within their psyche, and sometimes not knowing that, oh, that is trauma, or because they see their family situation as that's normal. So they've had it for a long time. But when we carry, that trauma within our psychic for a very long time, then it starts to then manifest in different ways. As I mentioned, depression, physical illnesses, and just so on. So it'll manifest externally, meaning illnesses, but and internally, depression, anxiety, and so forth.
And how might a first session with you appear? What would it be like to have an introductory session with you?
Well, there's two versions of that. One is sometimes a person will call and say, I just want a soul retrieval. And so it's, we, a soul retrieval just doesn't happen, um, you know, within an hour. So it's a whole session. So they may be there for that one session, or I recommend having three sessions 2 weeks apart. And then, going from there, see where they're at. So a session, a person comes in and I will, review, let's say an outline of what the session may look like. And, we start off, I have a mat on the floor. I love that being close to the earth. And so then I will smudge with sage. And then I begin to rattle. In rattling, then I'm going into an altered state. I'm connecting with that higher vibration, with the ancestors, their helping spirits, and opening up to the source, or what we call, it's called by many names, the source, God, etc. And because I want to be a hollow bone, I don't assume that this person needs a specific type of healing. So I open up. And then once I finish rattling, then what I do, it is a hands-on in the sense that I gently massage their third eye. And what that's doing is that's taking them into a slight altered state, because the more relaxed they are, the more they open up to, releasing what they need to release, and allowing that higher vibration of energy to come in. And then, of course, the heart. So then I'm tapping on the heart chakra, and I may place a crystal there, because I do work with crystals a lot. They have this beautiful, amazing energy that we can also, um, let's say, bring that our intention into. Or some people call it program. And so in tapping, we want to activate and energize that heart center, because that is a major part of our healing. And there's even studies have been done, scientific studies done on how important that heart energy, that connecting to our brain. And when that's not happening, for various reasons, then that then can um, create or intensify any trauma or depression, anxiety that we're having. So then in doing that, then in, in shamanism, and going into that altered state is also going into that place where everything is energy, and then going into, let's say, the brain area. What happens sometimes is, if a person experiences a trauma, and it stays, it's not addressed for a while, then that energy attracts other energies. We know in physics that everything is energy, so it'll attract light energies, or what we call intrusions. And those are varied as well. And so it's releasing that energy that doesn't belong to them, that does not serve them. So releasing that and bringing higher vibration into certain parts of the brain. Now, I don't dictate what part of the brain is going to be addressed. I'm opening up to a higher vibration. And then same thing, we hold memories around here, and in other parts in our body as well. But then I start releasing that tension, those memories around here. And then, eventually going to the other chakras where, there may be some congested energies, memories, emotions, etc. And then releasing that, once. And that session may take an hour. We usually take, anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes before the session to bring about that intention. And then after the hour, then I will drum. And in drumming, then that's when I'm doing the soul retrieval. Sometimes it is a soul retrieval, meaning that bringing back a healed part of ourselves that was traumatized early in life, and getting information as to what exactly that energetic self is. Sometimes it is going and bringing back a higher vibration of their soul energy or their psychic. Sometimes it's going to the DNA line, and bringing back healed energy from there, or going to the DNA line and seeing what happened, or when, at what generation that happened, to bring about that healing for self and family. So then that's, the closing of it. Very often the person also experiences, they'll get images or feelings, but not in terms of, reliving a trauma, but in terms of releasing it. And the person will feel that difference right away. And then the second session, I recommend 3, it goes even deeper in releasing. And then the third session is more that rebirth kind of energy.
Can your work be accomplished remotely, Anne?
I have not had that experience that it will go deep like in person does. A remote session is more just like an energy clearing. That can be done remotely, but going in there deep, into those memories, into that trauma, my experience is that that needs to be done in person, that is better accomplished in person.
Well, I know that you offer apprenticeship programs, deeper work in a group setting. Could you describe some of the work that you find most amenable to the group context?
Well, you know, very often people, I have what's called a shamanic apprenticeship program. And, initially they want to learn about shamanism. And I just let people know it is learn about shamanism, but it is applying it to self and going deep within your own psychic, in your own clearing and transformational process. So then, I hold groups that are maybe 10 to 12. I want to keep it small because then this becomes their tribe. This is your tribe, and this is a safe place where you can go deep, within yourself and be supported in that, and so that is a major part of it. So then, with each element of shamanism, it is applying it to self, and sometimes, they will partner up and apply, and have a shamanic session for each other. And then in addition to that, we keep contact, through Zoom, or through our chat groups, and we meet and continue processing that. So then the healing then becomes safe. This is my tribe. They are experiencing, the same type of healing, and going in there deep, because part of the program also is connecting with the elements. And within the elements, it is, let's say earth and what's called earthing, where we bury ourselves in the earth and, feeling, it's also feeling that embrace of the earth, but also releasing into the earth. And then the water, that sense of peace, of releasing again, that flow. We have ceremony in the water. And then, there's the fire, which is, again, well, it's multifaceted, but a big element of that is the ancestral energy. And that's when we have ceremony for the ancestors.
And I know a big part of your work, and you've mentioned this, Anne, is the rattling and the drumming and how that can shift awareness. You're a big believer in the impact of sound healing. Speak more about that if you could.
Well, with the drum, and with the rattle, and I also incorporate the gong and crystal bowls. So everything is, I mean, they each have a certain vibration. And, depending on the type of rattle, it has that vibration. And let's say I have some crystallized energy in my heart center. And then the rattle then we can use that, and one way, let's say I'm using the rattle to go into an altered state, and that's more gentle rounding in my heart center and going up. let's say a person has crystallized energy, and it is more of a, and same thing with a drum, when a person is on a journey and in a deep journey, I can go there with a drum and certain vibration. It's not just banging on the drum, but certain beats, certain vibrations, then will go in there, and again with the intention. Intention is a big part of it and help them release, let go, decrystallize. And same thing with the gong. It's amazing. It goes and there's this entrainment that happens in the brain, and but of course the person needs to be relaxed because it is very powerful. Then releasing, let's say very rigid thinking, and being in the mind so much, so it can then release that, decrystallize that, and same thing with the crystal bowls. So it's amazing. Same thing with chants. When I'm doing a healing, an individual healing, but also in the groups, the certain chants. And it may not be a chant, that I know. All of a sudden it just comes through these words, and so then I start chanting that. And the vibration of that then is a facilitator for whatever that person needs or what that group needs.
You may want to reconsider your your remote work, and because I felt the impact right there when you were rattling. So I think that you may have more remote impact on people than you have experienced in the past.
And I have been told that.
I'm glad I'm not the first, but anyway, I would look forward to your increased connection with people. One thing I wanted to ask you, Anne, is that to me, you feel like a mentor. You feel like someone who's had her own experiences, who's come to use shamanic energy techniques to deal with issues, clear and empower. Do you consider your clients to be mentees? Do you take people on in that regard?
Yes, and to me, that is such a gift from spirit for me. Once we complete the shamanic apprenticeship program, which can be up to 9 months or more, you know, um, and then the participants still come in for individual sessions or for counseling, or, I will offer, other retreats. So it is a mentoring along with mentoring of, let's say, if they have decided to take that path of being a shamanic practitioner, but also their a personal mentoring, of continuing in their own transformational process, and bringing that into their lives more and more. So yes, I have people that I've been mentoring for many years, and as I mentioned, that is such a gift. I love that. They are my family. They become my children. When I'm doing individual sessions, it is this prayer comes in. This is my daughter. This is my son. This is my mother. This is my grandmother. And bringing that vibration in. Yeah.
That's very personal work you're speaking of.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if you've agreed to offer a journey, and I wonder before we receive that experience if there's other aspects of your work or your approach that you'd like to speak about.
Yes, in the a big area that I get asked about is plant medicine. Very often, not everyone, but very often people will associate shamanism and plant medicine, like, it's a given, and it's not. So in my work, I've never experienced plant medicine. I was always able, when I hit that at age 25 and started having these spontaneous experiences, I would go into those places, those dimensions that, it is spoken of when people do plant medicine spontaneously. You know, was it in my DNA? I'm not sure. But this is part of the program that I teach as well, is that I use a breath work. And that will take a person into very similar states. But along with shamanism, I bring in the rattle and the drum, and I am able to then be in there where they are in their journey when they're doing this breath work, and then using the drum and rattle, supporting them in that, and going to those higher states or releasing. So that is a big part of my program also. And, I've had some um, amazing responses from people who experience the breath work along with shamanism, in terms of going into those altered states, being able to release, etc. So that is a big part of my program as well. And also something that's called cyclopump, what I call it, which is, shamanic death and dying. And I always mention, just like we want to live consciously, we want to die consciously. And, exploring those realms, first of all, for those spirits that are still here, earthbound, and need support in going into a higher vibration. So we visit that. Sometimes they're family members, or friends, but we also visit those places where there have been, maybe a large group died suddenly. Like with a mass murder or the accidents, the fires, etc. And when an individual dies, leaves their body so suddenly, there's this confusion. So then, that's part of our, I guess, community work, is going to those places energetically and supporting souls to move on to the light. And also looking at our own, and dying consciously. I think, especially in the Western world, we look as dying as something that is something we don't want to talk about, we don't want to address. But that is part of life. We're here, and then at some point we leave. When we leave, it's, varies for everyone, but then exploring those realms as well, for each individual. And so, yeah, that's a big part also.
Perhaps it would be a good time now, if you're willing, is to offer a brief journey for us.
Yes, I would love to do that. So in this journey, my great grandmother brought this information to me of a power animal. Now, there's in different traditions, they call them differently, totem animal, etc. So my great grandmother brought this in as my birth power animal. So, it in her tradition, she said we were born with a, certain power animal, and we do have those instinctual qualities of that animal are part of our instinctual qualities. And so, this is one of the reasons to connect with that, to see, those gifts and also those limitations. And so, in the limitations, what I mean, like for me, a big awareness was, let's say the elephant is my birth power animal. And so when I was younger, in my teens and later, the elephant is known to be stubborn. And so I was very stubborn, but I was stubborn for the sake of being stubborn. In that, it wasn't very helpful in many areas. It's kept me stuck. And so then learning about, that is one of the qualities, essential qualities of the elephant, then I was able to turn that stubbornness into persistence. persisting in my goals, in my healing, and in any area of my life, which has been, such a gift. So then in this journey, what I invite people to do then is coming into a relaxed state. And I will go a little bit into that when I start to drum. Coming to your breath, and then having that intention. The intention starts in the mind is that I am going to go into a journey to connect with my birth power animal. But then we bring it into our heart, and that's the intention. So it doesn't stay in the mind. It comes into the heart center. I'm going to journey to connect with my power animal. So then in some traditions, we go into, let's say, into the earth, or what's called the lower world. And a person can journey into the lower world by going through a place that's familiar. For me, it's the cave. I love the cave, the energy, that sense of going into the cave. It can be a tree stump, it can be a body of water, but you're going into the earth. And then you're calling from your heart center. I want to connect with my power animal, my birth power animal. And in that, keeping in mind that some of us are visual, some of us are auditory, some of us, our smell is stronger, or sensing. So just, being open to the way that journey unfolds for you. And you may hear an animal, or you may smell an animal, you may see an animal, and you want to ask it, are you my birth power animal? And usually when you see that same animal a couple of times and they've said yes, then that that's your birth power animal. And then you can hold a dialogue with it. What are those instinctual qualities of that animal that are part of me, and how can I continue to then strengthen those, become aware of those, integrate those into my life? So that's the journey. Then, and coming back, then we ask that power animal if it'll come back with us into our everyday life, and we bring it back. And then connecting with it in various ways. It can be having photographs of that animal, or walking like that animal, or dancing, and having different experiences with it.
And I must ask, elephant seems like quite an unusual power animal from your culture. Did you have a sense that that would be your power animal, or how did you first know that?
Well, it's interesting. When I first did this journey, and the elephant came along. And I realized from the time I was young, my mother would say, "Oh, you're so stubborn, just like an elephant," or "You're this, just like an elephant." Now, that is a very good, point in that. Why the elephant? Well, what I learned later, as I continue to journey, is that has been, that's also not just my birth power animal, but that maternal lineage from my mother is, that elephant. And if I look at those qualities, have been there with my mother and her sisters. I mean, I just see them so brightly. So where did that originate? I don't know. But it's been, the family, power animal for generations, as far as I can see.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And we're looking forward to experiencing the journey.
All right. So then, my drum here. And then if in closing our eyes and coming to our breath. Nice, long, deep, gentle breaths. And coming to our heart center. Bringing our intention to mind that we're going to journey into the earth, or what's called the lower world in some traditions. And we're going to go into the lower world through a familiar place. It can be a cave, a tree, a body of water, or something that's familiar to you. And when you arrive, it's going to look different for everyone. Very often for me, it looks like a forest. But again, it's different for everyone. And in walking in the lower world, that I am calling my intention that I want to meet my birth power animal. And remembering that we have, other power animals throughout our lives, but there's one that is with us throughout our lives. And when we see or feel or smell or hear an animal, I'm going to ask it, are you my birth power animal? And when one has said yes 2 or more times, then you create a dialogue with it, asking it, what are those instinctual qualities that are part of my instinctual qualities? And how can I integrate those in my life? And ask any questions that you want in relation to those instinctual qualities or, the animal itself. And then when you feel complete, then you invite it to come into your life with you, into your everyday life. And you come back the same way that you got there, coming back up. If it's the cave or the tree, just coming back. And taking that intention from your mind, bringing it into your heart. And we will begin. start coming back the same way you got there. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you so much, Anne. May I ask, what did you experience during that time?
While I'm drumming, my experience is that sensation in the heart of connecting with the vibration of the drum and with the intention of the journey. And so I feel the vibration in my heart.
And finally, what are we to do with the gifts that we've received during the journey? What would you suggest?
What I have found helpful is in learning more about that particular animal, birth power animal, learning more about the animal itself, learning about its instinctual qualities, and looking at, oh, yes, that is a part of me. I am persistent in my life, and that is how I reach my goals. And so then when, let's say, if I am having a challenge in let's say, in a particular goal or a particular direction, then I will drum and call in, my power animal. And I will ask, for support in that, and how can I then continue on my journey. What are those instinctual qualities, and how can I put that into action for this particular area in my life? And sometimes when I feel like I'm journeying all alone, journeying in my life all alone, and then I call in the elephant, or the elephants. It is actually not an individual elephant, but that elephant consciousness. And I will call it in, and I feel that support, which, as I mentioned, for me, the elephant is also that maternal line energy. And so then I feel all of that support as well. So, and it is also, looking at it, what are those fun parts about that particular elephant, and learning, or learning for me, how to apply that fun part in my life as well.
Elephants can have fun.
Excuse me?
Elephants can have fun.
Yes, yes. I actually, in connecting with the elephants, I went to Thailand and spent 2 weeks at an elephant rescue park, and feeding them and washing them and being near them and seeing how they have fun, especially in the water.
How great. Thank you so much, Anne, not only for the introduction of your work and your approach and where you come from in your life, but about this beautiful offering of the birth power animal. I myself, and I think others watching, will see the quality, the intentionality of your work, the mentoring ability that you have, and I'm thinking elephants and loyalty, and taking care of your community. I feel well nurtured by your approach and what you offer. Before we sign off, anything else you'd like to add?
No, just thank you so much for your invitation and for your presence. And I also thank Shamans Directory, and what it brings to our community to the world, being able to connect in those ways. There's many different types of shamanic traditions, and being able to see which one fits for me and which one calls me. And yes, thank you. What a gift.
Thank you so much, Anne. And thank you for watching this Shamans Directory interview. At Shamans Directory, we feature conversations with practitioners, teachers, visionaries from across the spectrum of energy awareness. Should you wish to contact Adam, please do so at shamansdirectory.com, where you can also learn about other members of this dynamic community and the programs offered. It's been my pleasure to be here with you today, and I look forward to seeing you around the fire, visiting with another medicine person, and hearing more inspiring stories. And thank you, Anne, for that experience of depth and awareness. Thank you for this opportunity to be with you this day.
Thank you.